Welcome back to the channel if you're anything like me, and you've been a longtime fan of the DJI Action 5 Pro, and you've been eagerly awaiting for DJI to announce their newest flagship camera, the Action 6. In the meantime, you may have noticed that they've released something entirely different, something very small, very unique, and even a little bit weird. It's the DJI Osmo Nano. On today's video, we're going to take a look at how this camera's unique design could be a great addition to your toolkit for underwater filming, as it's small, compact, and may be an excellent fit as a POV style camera to be worn on top of your dive mask as a way of capturing your entire dive in a first-person perspective. Aside from this, we're also going to cover some settings that I feel like will give you the best possible runtime so we can capture your entire dive, or at least as much of your dive as possible. Keep in mind that I did purchase this camera with my own money, and in no way am I affiliated with DJI, so this video is completely unsponsored. With that said, let's get started. In case you're not familiar with the concept, POV stands for point of view, and in this specific use case for shooting underwater, a POV camera would be best suited as a small camera that could be mounted to your dive mask or even a helmet, and will immerse the viewer into a first-person experience that they could be fully engaged in. Before moving forward, let's take a quick minute to see what's inside of the box. In the box, you'll find a smaller box that I'm assuming contains this camera's charger and accessories. And of course, you're going to get your typical literature and stickers as well. And then we have our camera that is fully sealed in this plastic, where it comes in two pieces held together by a magnetic connection system. This part is our actual camera unit, and I went ahead and went with the version that has 128 gigabytes of internal storage. But there is a 64 gigabyte version available as well if you're looking to save a few bucks. This storage is of course located inside of the camera itself and not inside of the detachable base, that other side that you saw earlier. We also have a magnetic bottom that electronically connects to its base, and I'm told that the back side is magnetic as well. Moving over to the detachable base, of course on the top of the unit, we will have a magnetic connection system that will unite with the camera unit. And as I mentioned, the camera unit has the internal storage built into it, but this part, the bottom half of the camera, has a removable SD card that you can back that storage up to when you connect the two halves together. And of course, connecting these two halves will also serve as a way to charge the camera unit in between your shooting sessions. Moving on to the accessories, everything that came with the box is laid out right here, taking note of the USB-C charging cable and this cover that will protect our camera unit, and also this fun magnetic plate that can be worn like a necklace to get a sort of chest-mounted POV perspective. As I just pointed out, the Osmo Nano uses magnets as a way to connect the upper half and the lower half together. However, there's also a latch on either side that you have to press in order to remove it. This base is not only a way to program the settings that your camera is going to be shooting in while in use, but it's also a way to recharge your main unit in between sessions. And keep in mind that we have this nice large display screen down here at the bottom that you can use to review the footage that you've already shot within that day. It's important to remember when using any sort of POV style camera that you're going to want the longest runtime possible. That way you can capture whatever activity or whatever sport it is that you're trying to document. And when using any sort of camera in this fashion, the main limitations that you might encounter are always going to come down to overheating, battery life, and even storage. Now let's head out to the water and see how well this camera performs in the field. Today we'll be at the headwaters of the San Marcos River, which is an environmentally sensitive habitat that is currently being plagued by an invasive fish from the Amazon River, which has unfortunately found its way into this ecosystem through the aquarium hobby. And this is Dylan. More often than not, you can spot him on this river armed with a spear pole, diving completely on breath hold, with the intent of removing as many of these harmful invaders as he possibly can. And today, he'll be wearing our DJI Osmo Nano on top of his dive mask so that we can experience this with him. Let's see how well this camera can handle that task. Right now, I'm filming Dylan with the DJI Action 5 Pro, but you can see that he has the Osmo Nano mounted on top of his dive mask. I'll point out that neither of these cameras are currently in a dive case. The Action 5 Pro that I'm currently filming on can go down to about 60 feet without a dive case. However, the Osmo Nano is limited to a depth of about 30 feet without the dive case. Keep in mind that its detachable base is only splash proof and should not go in the water at all. As I'm filming this, DJI currently does not have a dive case on the market for the Osmo Nano, but I'm sure that there will be one soon, or at least one will be released through Telesin, Fitstill, or any of the other third-party manufacturers that you can find on Amazon. I have no doubt that once a dive case is available, the Osmo Nano will have no issue going down to any recreational diving depth. As Dylan took that first shot with his spear pole, he noticed that there's a second fish over to the right, and as they say in Call of Duty, switching to your sidearm is quicker than reloading, so using his knife, he's able to bag a second fish. At this point, we've been in the water for about 45 minutes, so it may be a good time to dry the camera off and attach it to its base. This will give us an opportunity to take a quick break, as this will allow for the camera unit to recharge its battery so that we can keep on filming. With the correct settings, I'm usually able to get this camera to record for over an hour until it needs to be recharged, which can be considered the typical time frame that most recreational dives will fit into. Once you attach this camera to its base and it begins recharging, you'll be surprised how quickly you can get back to a completely full charge. In my experience in using this camera, I've noticed that all it takes to get up to 95% is about 15 minutes of charging, which is enough time to grab a quick snack or take a break. Aside from charging, when reuniting your camera to its base, you can also take this as an opportunity to offload the footage from your camera to the SD card. The camera unit itself has internal storage built into it, and this is what your camera is writing to when you're shooting. This is why when you're purchasing, you have the choice between one of two options: 64 gigabytes of storage or 128 gigabytes of storage. And either way you decide to go here in between shooting, you can then transfer this footage from the internal storage that's built into your camera over to the SD card that's going to be kept inside of the detachable base. This way you can clear the storage on your camera unit and ensure that you have plenty of available storage and recording time for your next session. Aside from the Osmo Nano, I will say that the Action 5 Pro, on the other hand, will allow for hours of recording without the need to take any breaks or recharging, as its battery is superior to that of the Nano, which really makes the Action 5 the best option for this type of POV style shooting, as long as the size and weight doesn't bother you. However, the size difference between the two is pretty big in my opinion, and the small size of the Osmo Nano does offer a crucial advantage for certain applications, like what we're seeing right here, where Dylan is swimming into this very tight and very confined space underneath this old mill, completely on breath hold, which is something I wouldn't recommend for anybody to do. However, in this situation, the larger Action 5 would not only be heavier and more cumbersome, but it would also be prone to getting bumped or dislodged. As I mentioned earlier on in the video, one of the more important aspects of a good POV style camera is the ability to have a long battery life. However, it's important to keep in mind the settings you're shooting with will also have a large effect on this, which is what I want to cover next. Just like on the other DJI cameras, you can set up multiple presets that can be cycled through. The only difference is with this camera, you cannot cycle through those different presets while underwater because the base of this camera will not be going underwater with you. In order to change the preset, you in fact need to get out of the water and reattach the camera to its base. Since this base is only splash proof, whatever preset that you choose before you get into the water will be the preset that you use on your entire dive. For this reason, we'll be covering 2 presets that I believe you may find useful. One is going to be 4K 30 with a low bitrate that'll enable you to have a longer recording session, while the other will be a very similar preset that'll be geared for use in low light conditions. For the sake of this video being centered around POV style use, I only want to focus on the settings that are going to affect the storage consumption, battery life, or anything that's going to allow your camera to have a longer runtime. If you're looking for a more in-depth look at color profiles, lens options, or more advanced settings, feel free to visit my video that I made about the Action 5 Pro regarding best settings for underwater use, as the menus and settings for both cameras are very similar. I'll go ahead and link that video right here. Now let's start by setting the bitrate on our Osmo Nano to high. You can do this by swiping down from the top of the screen, hitting the gear icon on the top right, and then scroll down to bitrate. Select high. Now let's go back to the main screen, open up the menu icon on the right side, then switch from 8-bit color to 10-bit color. Setting your bitrate to high and your color to 10-bit will in fact burn through your battery faster, as it'll be capturing more data, use more compute, more storage, and even make your camera run hotter. We're going to set it this way to ensure that when you're not shooting in a POV style manner, that we will be capturing the highest quality footage possible. However, when it's time to shoot in POV, we're simply going to open up this menu that you see here on the right side of the screen, then enable a feature called Endurance Mode. This will automatically switch your color from 10-bit to 8-bit, and your bitrate from high to standard. This will ensure that you get the longest runtime possible on your camera's battery. Now let's swipe up from the bottom of the screen, as we will want to ensure that we're shooting at a frame rate of 30 frames per second. As far as resolution is concerned, I'm going to go ahead and keep mine set at 4K. The lower the resolution that you're willing to downres to, the longer runtime you're going to have on your battery. And I'm told with 1080p at 30 frames a second, you can actually get a runtime that's close to 90 minutes, as opposed to the hour-plus recording time that you can get at 4K 30. However, if you're looking for a good compromise, you may want to consider 2.7K at 30 frames a second. Also, take note how I selected 4K with an aspect ratio of 4:3 as opposed to 16:9. This ensures that in case my camera accidentally gets bumped or is pointing too far up or down as it's mounted on my head, that I have plenty of room to reframe my composition in post. Also, I'm going to keep my stabilization at rock steady. Now let's go ahead and exit out this menu and save this as our first preset. You could do this by swiping down from the top of the screen, going over to the person icon, and then you can save your preset here. I'm going to go ahead and choose the icon that looks like a dive mask. The next preset we're going to create is going to be the one for low light shooting. So let's go ahead and tap on the bottom left hand side of the screen, and then you can select the moon icon. You'll notice that this low light setting is in 1080p by default. So we're going to go ahead and switch this back into 4K to make sure that we have a nice resolution. The only other change I would make here is maybe go into your white balance and change it to 4500K or whatever color temperature you feel is closest to your dive light. This of course I would only do if you're in a very low light environment that doesn't have any ambient light of its own, such as a night dive, a cave dive, or maybe even a cavern dive. Otherwise, I would just keep your white balance set in auto. And if you're happy with these settings, go ahead and save this preset, and now we're pretty much done here. And that just about brings this video to a wrap. Hope you found it useful. Keep in mind this video is not sponsored by DJI. However, if you do have plans on picking up one of these cameras for yourselves and you want to support my channel, be sure to check out my Amazon affiliate link that I've posted below. And of course, I'm eagerly awaiting the DJI Action 6, so keep an eye out for that video, which hopefully will be posted very soon. Can't wait to see you in the next dive. Thanks for watching.